For those of you that have your cell phones on, we can hear you texting, so please mute your phones as if we're in a regular meeting. And then council, just so you know, if you get any text messages from constituents during the public meeting, please ignore them. During the DRB meeting, we had people texting some of the DRB members during the meeting, which I told them not to pay attention to.
All right, it is 6:01. And seeing that it is 6:01, we'll call our August 11th, 2020 Town of Windermere Council meeting to order. Again, I apologize to all that for some reason my camera isn't working. As we get into one of the presentations, I'll give it another shot, but for some reason it doesn't seem to want to cooperate. We'll go ahead and begin our meeting tonight with our salute to the flag, and I'll once again ask Councilman McKinley if he would lead us in the pledge so we don't get the big echo. We'll let him lead us in that pledge. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilperson McKinley. Appreciate that. And our invocation this evening, if you'll join me. Father, as always, we pray for your guidance and as we make decisions for our town and our community and those that we call our neighbors. Again, we pray for the family that was so deeply impacted by the tragedy of a week and a half ago. We pray for peace and healing, especially for their young child. We also pray for all of our first responders who have to respond to difficult times and scenes. We appreciate their support. And also we pray for all of those who protect us around the world day and night and offer our quest to remain a free nation. Amen. Tonight we will begin with public comment. We have several folks that have signed up tonight to speak. We've got some consent agenda items for Stephanie Wise, James Salmon, and Joanne Strickland. Also for, I believe, the ordinance for chickens, Valerie Tucker, Rita Casey, Karen Fay, and I believe there might be a couple others.
That's all I received from Dorothy, but we do have the letters for there's a chicken one, the 2 chickens, 3 chickens, and we have 4 letters for against the chicken ordinance.
Sounds good. And we may have some others that also want to add public comment. So what we will do is we'll provide that opportunity. If those who would like to speak at the beginning of the meeting, and at that point now we can allow that. Or if you would like, we will await the items that you have the comments on in terms of the consent agenda items. And then towards the end of the meeting, we will have the chicken ordinance discussion and would invite those opinions then and comments at that point. So that is up to those who would like to speak. But what I'll need to know now, is there anyone who would like to offer their public comment at this time? All right, seeing none, I will assume that those individuals would like to wait till we get to the agenda item at hand, and that is how we will proceed. We could go that direction. All right. So moving to our next agenda item, we have our special presentations, proclamations, and awards. Tonight, item 2A and 2B will be our tentative budget hearing announcements. We announce these so everyone knows when these hearings will be if they wish to offer input or attend. So I'll make that announcement now. So agenda item 2A Our budget hearing will take place on September 8th, 2020, 6 p.m. That's a virtual meeting and info will be provided. Item B is our announcement for final budget hearing of September 21st, 2020, and that'll be 6 p.m. That'll also be a virtual meeting and info again will be provided. And that would be for our final budget hearing.
Mayor, the first tentative budget hearing is on September 9th.
Did I not say that? I apologize, sir. Okay, so let's do that again. So for item A, our tentative budget hearing, September 9th, 2020, 6 p.m., virtual meeting info to be provided. I want to make sure we get those properly announced. We also have our West Orange Healthy Selfie Proclamation. Sorry, I'm using a little tiny computer here tonight, so I gotta have a lot on one tiny little screen. This proclamation is from Healthy West Orange, and whereas Healthy West Orange inspires healthy behaviors and provides resources to help residents make better lifestyle choices, and whereas Healthy West Orange champions healthy programs that deliver health wellness activities, whereas Healthy West Orange unites healthy-minded organizations for whom a healthy community provides meaningful benefits, and whereas Healthy West Orange advocates for a healthy community decisions and encourages local leaders to keep their community's health and wellness as a top priority. Whereas Healthy West Orange declares the third Friday in September as the annual West Orange Healthy Safety Day. Therefore, it is my great privilege and pleasure as mayor of the town of Windermere to declare Friday, September 18th, 2020 as West Orange Healthy Selfie Day. And I urge all citizens to join in support of this initiative, and you can do that. Last year, we all took some selfies and we put those on social media, and we would encourage everyone to do that as well this year.
Mayor, I do believe we have some West Orange Healthcare Alliance members on if they have anything to add to that.
Please.
If they would like to go ahead and unmute.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Murray, and I am the Marketing and Events Coordinator with Healthy West Orange. Thank you so much for having us today over Zoom. And our Healthy Selfie Celebration goes all September long, and there are a couple ways that folks can get involved this year virtually. So first up is we want everyone in the community to send in their healthy selfie. So that means that you send in a selfie doing what makes you feel healthy. So that could be a workout at home, that could be eating your favorite healthy snack, or maybe practicing meditation and gratitude for well-being. And we also have a virtual 5K going on in September as well. So you can walk, bike, run your way to 3.1 miles, and you will get a sweet race t-shirt and medal just as if you ran an in-person race. So we want to all join together as a community virtually, and we hope that everyone will get involved and celebrate Healthy Selfie in West Orange.
Thank you, Heather. We appreciate you being here and all the support and great things you're all doing for the community.
If I could have everybody look at their cameras, I'm going to get a couple of screenshots, and we'll just get our group selfie here. Here we go. Great, folks. Just hold it right there. That's awesome. 1, 2, 3. And one more. And here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you.
I don't think the mayor was smiling on that one.
Yeah, I'll get the big blank. I've been trying to be healthy though. I promise you that, guys. Thank you, guys. We appreciate all your support and everything that you're doing for the community. It's been a great initiative now. And is this your second or third year now?
This is our third year, I believe, doing Healthy Selfie. We do virtual events all year long, and this year it's even more relevant with the current times. So we hope everyone will get joined together virtually this time.
Indeed. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
All right, up next on our agenda tonight is timed items and public hearings. This is ordinance number 2020-05. As you'll recall, we had our first reading of this ordinance last council meeting. At this time, I'll read the ordinance into the record. We will close our town council meeting, open up a public hearing for any input, and then afterwards, council can weigh in and approve this item if they so see fit. This is ordinance number 2020-05, an ordinance of the Town of Windermere, Florida, adding a new Article 3 to Chapter 22 of the town's Code of Ordinances to be entitled Conduct in Town Park and Recreation Areas. This is providing definitions prohibiting alcoholic beverages in or on any public property, public recreation area, or public park unless authorized by the Town Council pursuant to Section 8-93 of the Town's Code of Ordinances. This is authorizing the inspection of containers for alcoholic beverages, providing the inspection procedure, and providing for confiscation, providing for ratification, severability, codification, and an effective date. At this time, we will close our town council meeting at 6:11 p.m. And we will open a public hearing for ordinance number 2020-05. At this point, any member of the public who would like to offer comment on this item is invited to do so. And seeing none, we will close our public hearing at 6:11 p.m., reopen our Town of Windermere Council meeting at 6:11 p.m. Council, this item is open for your input or approval with motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Go ahead.
Second.
Motion. Okay, and a second by, I'm sorry, I didn't see who that was.
Andy.
Second by Mr. Williams, and motion by Councilperson McKinley. Council, any discussion? Seeing none, we will begin voting with Councilperson Martini.
Aye.
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 All right, and the motion, ordinance number 2020-05, the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you, Council. Up to our consent agenda, we have 4 items this evening on our consent agenda item. I know there are individuals who would like to make public comment on some of these items as well. Council, are you wanting to hear each of these items individually, or how would you like to move forward?
I would like to hear them individually.
Okay, so we at this point will pull items A, B, and C, as well as D, and we'll have individual conversation on those. So first up is consent agenda item A. This is a variance to allow a 2,470 square foot addition to an existing non-conforming home and to permit a new boat port with a 14-foot side setback. On this item, DRB recommended approval of the home with an addition by a vote of 6-0, and then the approval of the boat variance by a vote of 5-1. So get back to those items. Councilperson Martini is
Yes,
our
sir.
liaison for that for DRB. Would you like to go ahead and open this item, sir?
Yes, is Brad here or anybody?
He is here. I didn't know if you wanted to comment first or we'll let Brad go. That makes more sense. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So everyone's way, I'm Brad Quinez with Wade Trim. I serve as a town planner. Yeah, so the first case you have before you this evening, it's a variance case. It's Z20-06. The owner of the property is Mike Wyatt, represented by Daryl Nunley. And as the mayor said, there's 2 variance requests. The one is to basically to redo the existing house that's there. The existing house is non-conforming. It's been there for quite a long time. And they're looking to add 2,470 square feet to the existing home, which exceeds the 10% limitation. The additions, however, they're going to be on the, I guess I'll say the right side of the home if you're facing out towards the street. So the additions, however, they will meet all the required current setback standards. It'll meet the floor area ratio requirements, the impervious ratio requirements. They'll also meet the stormwater requirements. So what they're adding is compliant in terms of all the other standards. The issue is just the amount that they're adding to it. And as the mayor said, the Development Review Board, when they reviewed it, they were supportive of the addition to the house, and they had a unanimous vote of 6-0 to support that variance. The second variance relates to the dock on the property. The dock is there's an existing dock there, and what's unique about this dock, there's a boathouse that sits across the property line that's shared by the two neighbors, by the applicant and the neighbor to the side. And you can see it there, Robert's pointing it out. So that's one boathouse, but it's owned by both parties. So what they're proposing to do, you see the dock to the side of it. They're going to replace that dock or add to that dock a boat port to pull the boat into there. That'll be 14 feet from the property line as opposed to the required 16 feet for a dock. The DRB, they had quite a bit of discussion about this part of the variance, and the motion to approve related to the relationship to the existing boathouse, because they're not changing the existing boathouse. It'll stay as it is. I will say, and it is in your staff report, initially they were going to put a deck out to the, I'll call it the front, out towards the lake on the existing boathouse, but they withdrew that part of the application. So they're no longer going to, they're not going to change anything on the existing boathouse, and the new boat port at 14 feet would maintain relationship connectivity to the existing boathouse. So that was the justification that the DRB saw for it. They did recommend approval of a vote of 5-1. The vote in opposition, Ms. Sutton, she was concerned just about it being too crowded, basically was the concern there. But that's the summary of the case. We did send out the notices. We received 6 in support. We did get support from the neighbors on both sides of the subject property, and we received 5 in opposition. The opposition was really tied to some folks felt it was just too big of a home over the opposition. That's my summary. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Brad, if I can add to that,
Yes,
just a couple things. The only reason the house is non-conforming is because there was a laundry room added on the left side of the house. You can see where Robert's moving the cursor around. Otherwise, the variance request would not be needed to expand this home, and the size they're expanding it to is going to be roughly equal to what's on either side of the house now. And as far as the dock goes, they can't really take down the existing dock without adversely affecting the neighbor. So they're asking for a 2-foot encroachment into the 16-foot setback to add a boat port, which will house an actual modern sized boat.
Councilman Martini, what is there now? Is that it looks like a port as well, but it's not big enough for a boat?
It is, yeah, it's an old, I'm not sure when it was built. Maybe Brad can tell me.
It was many years ago.
Very old.
Yes, before I was born, I think. So
in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, Mayor, what they're changing is to the right of the boathouse, you can see there's like a platform deck.
Right.
That'll get changed to actually a port where a boat can pull into it as opposed to a deck there.
Okay.
So that's what the change would be.
So, Robert, for procedural purposes, essentially we have 2 variances. This is 2 variances in one request. Are we free to break that up, or?
You can do them as a combination, or you can break them up.
Okay, I'll leave that to council. All right. Is the applicant here with any comment?
Daryl Nunley is the representative for the applicant, and he is present.
Good evening, everyone. We are in complete agreement with DRB's recommendations, and we'll just kind of make this simple. Unless you have some questions, I'd love the opportunity to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Nunley. Appreciate your being here this evening.
Sure. Thank you, Jim.
Council, I'll go ahead and open this item up for discussion or motion.
I make a motion to approve both.
Motion to approve by Councilperson Martini, and did I hear a second from you, Councilperson McKinley?
Yes.
And a second from Councilperson McKinley. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, we'll begin voting with Councilperson Andert.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and that variance request will be approved unanimously. Consent agenda item AZ 20-06. Next up is consent
Thank you, everybody.
agenda. Thank you. Consent agenda item Z20-08. This is for 711 West 2nd Avenue. This is a request from Scott and Stephanie Wise for a variance to allow a new dock with a 1-foot setback. DRB recommended denial of this particular item 5-0 with Mr. Chase abstaining. This was due to a lack of hardship demonstrated on the lot by DRB. Brad, do you want to go ahead and present, sir?
Yes, sir. Again, this is variance case Z20-08. As the mayor said, the owners are Scott and Stephanie Weiss. Their representative is Sheila Sikra. And the property is 711 West 2nd Avenue in Windermere. As the mayor said, the request is for them to build a new dock on the property that would have a 1-foot setback. There is an existing dock on the property, Robert showing there on the screen, and it actually currently, the existing dock actually currently encroaches across the property line by approximately 3 feet. So the new dock that they're proposing is going to be moved over 4 feet from where it currently is, which would then result in a 1-foot setback off of that side property line. And as you all are aware, the requirement of the town is 16 feet for the side setback. So that is the request. I will also let the council know they have already received the approval of Orange County EPD and also their building permit. However, so you're also aware that doesn't tie you all to any decision. I mean, you're still independent to make whatever decision you would deem that you would like to make with that. So that is the request. The DRB, when they reviewed this request, their concern, as it says in your item there, is they weren't able to see that there was a hardship related to the property or to the land. They have about 130 feet of frontage on the lake, and the DRB felt there was plenty of room for them to move it over the other 15 feet to meet the 16-foot setback, and that there was opportunity to meet this. So they did not see that there was a hardship demonstrated at their hearing. We did send out the notices for this request. We received 9 in support, and we received 2 in objection, and we had 1 person respond that they offered a compromise, and they had offered that their idea was allow a 7-foot setback. Was their thought on the response. So that is just also for the record, Mr. Chase did abstain from the vote due to potential conflict of interest there. That is my summary of the request. I do know the applicant is online with us tonight, the owners, as well as their representative.
Thank you, Brad. We appreciate that. We'll have the owners speak in just 1 second. Councilperson Martini, is that pretty? Do you agree with the DRB kind of their recommendation in terms of not necessarily for the variance itself, but is that how you saw the DRB meeting?
Yeah, my understanding was that that they felt there was no hardship involved because the property was like that when the owners bought it. I'd like to point out a couple of things. On the picture you're looking at right now, where the cursor is circling, that is actually, you can barely see it, but that is actually the boathouse. It's right up against the seawall. And at this point, it's similar to the one we just talked about. It's non-functional. It's got very small bay that barely accommodates a john boat. The water there, even with the high water level that we've got right now, it's not functional. The water's only about 2 feet deep right there. So I believe, and Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, but the owners could potentially rebuild that boathouse. It looks like it was built in the 40s or 50s. They could rebuild that where it is on the same location. Is that correct, Brad?
Right, yes, so Councilman Martini, yes. The way that works because the town has adopted the county's boat dock ordinance. So that provision related to grandfather docks, we follow what the county does. And the county for grandfather docks or these old docks, they will allow an owner to replace a dock that's non-conforming as long as it's in the exact same footprint at the exact same size. If they deviate beyond that, then they have to go through the county's process for a waiver to that requirement. So yes, they could replace exactly what's there, which is something new within the same footprint and the same size. With this application, though, what we have is they're not proposing to retain the boathouse. The boathouse will come down. So this is a brand new, altogether new structure that they're proposing to put in. It's not adding on to the boathouse like in the previous one.
Correct. And if they don't get the variance, you know, I think one of their options is to rebuild the boathouse on the existing footprint, which would leave it where it is. It would still be encroaching on the neighbor's property, and it would still be non-conforming. And I think what the applicant is looking for is a compromise to where they would eliminate the encroachment and, you know, still leave it non-conforming to a certain extent, but on their own property, and make it more usable, you know, for a modern day boat. Because, you know, where it is right now, it's just not usable. There's not enough water down. There is plenty of space left to right on the property. It's between the blue lines. I personally went over there and spoke to the neighbors, and the neighbors on the left have no issue. I think they're here with us tonight and would like to speak on that. The neighbors to the right certainly don't have an issue with it because they've enjoyed the open view of that lakefront for many years and like to maintain that, but you know, it's up to the council to decide. So there are several options here, but yes, going by the book, the DRB voted to disallow it because there was not a hardship. Although if they were to rebuild it in its current state, there is a hardship in that the water is not deep enough, you know, to even put a boat in there. So maybe we should hear from the applicants.
Thank you, Councilperson Martini. We will definitely hear from the applicants. Yes, I understand that that Mr. and Mrs. Weiss would like to add comment. Go ahead. If you could give us your name and address as you do this as well, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Wise. My husband Scott is with me, and we're here in regards to 711 West 2nd Avenue. I first want to say thank you to each council member. You each spent time out of your busy lives to meet with me and to discuss this, and I truly appreciate it. I know we've been completely impressed by your dedication to your service, and we appreciate you. Thank you again for having us tonight and allowing us to outline what we believe are important considerations in support of our request to remodel and rebuild the existing dock on the property. As discussed, the existing dock was built decades ago and includes an enclosed boathouse. It is non-compliant and encroaches over the Strickland's property. The majority of the outer boat slip is actually over the property line. In addition, there are 2 narrow boat slips, and they're built in very shallow water, as Mr. Martini said, and they will not accommodate a modern boat. Our request would allow us to simply consolidate the 2 slips to 1, shift the boat slip to deeper water, and to slightly expand the deck. The footprint of what we have now is 990 square feet. Our revised plan would add approximately 50 square feet. So if you're really talking about apples to apples here. In doing so, the remodeled version would eliminate the current boathouse design in favor of an open air structure. In this design, we believe both enhances sightlines for our neighbors and aligns with current standards. The requested variance would also allow for the current green space to remain intact. We believe this is a net benefit to the town from a sightline perspective from the water. While it would be certainly more cost-effective and expedient to utilize what we have, because it is so shallow and so narrow, we are left in a situation where a modern boat simply cannot be housed there. Of the public responses received by the town, as Brad has outlined, 9 of them replied in favor. Most notably, our neighbor to the west, Ms. Strickland, has joined in support of the request as well. In addition, General Garner, which is to hit her west, has also approved the variance. In reviewing the relevant section of the Land Development Code, we believe that the requested variance should be granted based on the following. There are 7 criteria. The first is that the need arises out of the physical or environmental conditions that are unique to the property. As previously noted, the fact that the existing boat slips are built in shallow water makes the existing dock unusable. It is our request to simply rebuild the dock in the same general vicinity that the current dock exists today. Construction of the remodeled version would eliminate the encroachment and the boathouse. The changes improve a bad situation and result in the removal of an unsightly structure. The conditions we face are clearly peculiar to our property. The second criteria of the code is that there are practical or economic difficulties in carrying out the strict letter of the regulation. Because of the angle of the shoreline and the property lines, it is more practical to rebuild a code-compliant dock in the same location as the existing non-conforming one. The third criteria, that the request is not based exclusively upon a desire to reduce the cost of development. To the contrary, our desire to remove an unsightly structure and rebuild a code-compliant dock results in additional expense. However, we believe the remodeled version will add to the aesthetic appeal of the adjacent area. The fourth criteria, that the variance will not substantially increase congestion or create a hazard. Because of the angle of the shoreline, if we are required to locate the dock in the middle of the property, the dock will actually jut out further into the bay. From the water looking toward the shore, keeping the dock in the same area is more aesthetically pleasing to everyone. Also, by keeping the remodeled dock in the same location as today, it would remain adjacent to our neighbor's dock, allowing us to maintain the green open space that exists. The current open space along the shoreline, if required to be changed, would be eliminated for navigation, fishing, and swimming. I would argue that if granted, the variance actually works to reduce potentially hazardous situations. In its current form, the open water area you see to the east of the dock gives us a safe way to drop skiers. The bay is a favorite body of water for skiers. There's often heavy boat traffic just along the docks there at the perimeter. And as a mom with my young kids, pulling them behind the boat, we have found that to be a very safe way to get them on shore and not to drop them in the middle of the traffic line. The fifth criteria is that it will not substantially diminish property values or alter the essential character of the surrounding site. By keeping the dock in the requested location, the net effect is no negative change for the adjacent property owners. For the Stricklands, the sightlines will actually improve as the boathouse structure will be eliminated in favor of an open air design. Plus, this will remedy the 3-foot encroachment. However, if the dock is required to be moved to the middle, our east neighbor's sightlines will be impacted, and by default, this will alter the essential character of the area surrounding the site. The sixth criteria is that the proposed variance is in harmony with the general and specific intent of the code. We have the full support of the adjacent property owner, Ms. Strickland, and we believe that that is a good example of the purpose and intent of such a variance. Further, we see no reason why this request would go against the general or specific intent of the code. Finally, the seventh criteria is that our variance would not encourage further requests for changes where a land use would not be deemed appropriate. Clearly, appropriateness varies from request to request, and requests should be evaluated on their own merit. We respectfully contend that the grant of this variance is specific to the facts and conditions of our property, and that our specific facts are not present elsewhere. It is on this basis that we respectfully request that the council approve the requested variance. As noted, we believe we have met the criteria identified in the Land Development Code. More specifically, we believe that there are several hardships to consider. First, the circumstances of the dock and improvements would not cause a detriment to the surrounding area, and in fact, would serve to improve the surrounding area. Second, moving the dock to a different location will negatively impact a separate ecosystem and lake vegetation. And third, finally, because of the shallow depth of water and the narrow width of the existing slips, the enclosed boathouse is not usable in its current form. Again, we appreciate your consideration of our request, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mrs. Wise. Any additional comments? Sheila, I think she's good. She's gonna take your job. You gotta be careful there.
You can have it.
All right, Council, I will place this back into your capable hands for discussion or a motion.
Mayor, I think the neighbors are on and wish to make some comments as well. Or one of the neighbors, I believe. Is that incorrect?
John Strickland.
Yeah,
Joan
Joan.
Strickland. It says I've been on the screen all this time and it says Joel, but actually my name is Joan. So,
All right.
and good evening, everyone. I asked to speak tonight in support of Stephanie and Scott Wise's request for a variance on the rebuild of their dock at 711 West 2nd Avenue, which is located immediately next to my dock that I have owned for 50 years as of last March. So anyway, I regret not to be able to attend the development review meeting, which would address this request. I intended to be there, but I had a conflict. It was our 8th wedding anniversary. So we had to be there for that. I had written quite a long note in support of the response to the Windermere notification of this variance request, but it was apparently lost somehow in the first mailing. And so when the second mailing came, I just signed it, assuming maybe people would receive the first one also, which I had carefully written, but I don't know that happened. I support this request for the following reasons. The current dock has been there since I purchased the property over 50 years ago and has never presented a problem. In fact, we have in the past tied up a pontoon boat between the two boathouses for shelter during storms. I am comfortable with even the current location. I am the property owner most impacted by any change here. I have no objection to their request. The request for a variance actually is an improvement to the current situation in that the requested dock would no longer encroach on the property line of my property, of my cottage. I support this request not just to be a good neighbor, but because it seems to me to be the least disruptive choice. I expect abandoning the current location and building a new dock somewhere else on the shoreline would have a larger environmental impact than simply moving the dock 4 feet away to its current location. Another point I'd like to make is we have so many people walking, riding their bikes, running on 2nd Avenue, and this is one of the most open areas with people be able to get a view of the lake. And I think it's nice if the boathouses can be closer together than further apart, just for the benefit of our neighbors and our friends. So that's my idea. So thank you very much.
Thank you much, Ms. Strickland. Could you please just give me your name and address for the record?
Yes, it's Joan Strickland, and I live at 745 West 2nd Avenue.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here this evening. So, Council, now with all public comment taken care of, I'll leave this to you in terms of discussion or a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
A motion to approve by Councilperson Ander. We have a second?
Second, Sapp.
Second by Councilperson Sapp. Any discussion, Council? All right, seeing no discussion at this time, we'll begin voting with Councilperson Martini. Councilperson Martini is muted. There we go.
Aye.
No problem.
Aye. Aye.
Was that an aye, Councilperson Martini?
That is an aye, yes, an aye.
Okay, just want to confirm. Thank you for the record. Next vote.
Kinley's muted.
Aye.
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 All right, the motion passes unanimously for item B, 4B, Z20-08. Next up is item 4C. This is item Z20-09 for 31 Pine Street. This is Patricia Sweet Grafton and Bryce Grafton and Mitch Powers variance to allow an increase of 804.78 square feet of gross floor area to a previously approved variance That number is Z19-005, and a variance to allow the replacement of the pool deck at 15.7 feet from the normal high water elevation, with the conditions that the pool deck be constructed of engineered pervious material, and that the conditions of variance Z19-005 remain in place. DRB has recommended approval for these conditions by a vote of 6-0. We'll hand this item now to Mr. Cornelius. And Brad, if you can just remind us, refresh us a little bit on Z19-005, which it's been a little while we approved that variance.
I will do that. Yes, sir. This is Z20-09, as the mayor said, at 31 Pine Street. The owners are Patricia Sweet Grafton, Bryce Grafton, and applicant representative is Mitch Powers. Yeah, so this property a year ago in 2019 went through a variance process while it was in the process of being sold. And what was approved by the town council last year was the ability for this home to be expanded to add porches basically to the back of the property, to the back of the house, as well as to add a second-story addition to the home as well. And that was approved by the council last year. There was one part of that variance that was not approved. They did propose last year, and actually previously was doing another small addition on the side of the house, but that was not approved, and so that was removed. And there was conditions tied to that approval. The conditions were that when they had to update their septic system, they would have to do an advanced septic system. They would have to provide a swale along the berm. They would also have to do 80% of the waterfront in native plantings. And those were the main conditions that were with that one. What then occurred was then the property was sold, and Ms. Sweet purchased the property, and they moved forward to complete renovations to the home. And what they're doing is actually, they're just adding porches, roof porches on top of the areas that were already approved for the expansion. So as you can see, and as Robert is showing you, the areas that project out from the home, those have already been approved by the town. That was approved under the other variance, those projections towards the lake. What they're doing and why they're back before to amend the variances, now they're putting roofs on top of these areas and turning them into covered patios and porches. The issue that we ran into was the way the town defines gross floor area. It includes anything that's under a roof, including balconies and patios. So when that variance was approved last year, it had a limitation on the maximum amount of square footage that could be added that didn't account for enclosing or putting these roofs over top the additions that were approved. So by doing this, by putting these covers over it, it adds additional square footage. However, they're not changing the footprint in any way that was already approved under the variance for the house. They're simply just reconfiguring, redesigning that back of the house to create these porches that you see on the screen. So there is no change in terms of the footprint. That's not changing at all. What was approved before still applies in terms of how close the house will encroach to the lake. That's not changing from what was already approved. The second part of the variance now then relates to the swimming pool. The current swimming pool, it's an old swimming pool, like it's a very old house. The current deck that's around the pool is it's basically like a 4-foot area around the pool. It's in poor condition. The applicants want to fix it. They want to renovate it, but they also want to expand it. And as Robert's showing on the screen there, they want to expand it, and you can see the extent of the expansion. The existing decking around the pool is kind of that white area that kind of goes around the outline of the pool, and then the rest of it's what they're looking to add to it. And you can see there. So that's the second variance. So the first variance is related to just allowing that additional square footage that's being created by putting these roofs over the already approved additions. That's the first variance. The second variance is then related to the pool deck, because the code does require all pool decking to be 50 feet from the normal high water elevation. The current pool deck is already less than 50, and what they're proposing, it would bring it to the closest point to about 15.7 feet from the normal high water elevation of the lake. And so that's what triggered the variance for the addition or for the expansion of the pool deck, was bringing it closer to the lake at less than 50 feet. And that I was with the Development Review Board. They were fully in support of the variance related to the house and allowing for the overhangs and the roof porches in the back. They recommended approval of that by 6-0, but with really no concerns. The DRB did have quite a bit of a discussion about the pool deck, and the concern was having the pool deck encroach further towards the lake, and that was the core of that discussion. I will also kind of jump ahead a little bit in terms of the notices that we sent out. We received supporting. Let me see the number we had. Yeah, we received support letters for the notice, but a few of the letters of support, two of them specifically, they supported the variance to the house, but they identified the concern related to the expansion of the deck towards the lake. So overall they supported the variance. That's why you don't see any no's on the map, but they did express a concern about expanding the deck towards the lake. With the DRB discussion about that concern and that issue, that's where their recommendation came in. There was a motion made with the recommendation that, or a condition, I should say, a condition that, well, the only way we would allow it to encroach to the area that they're looking to do would be that deck would have to be constructed so it's pervious. So it's pervious materials, or it acts in a pervious manner. That can be accomplished if they do wood decking with appropriate spacing and design and whatever, and making sure the underneath the decking is also pervious. So it's doable. It's something that can occur. It will require them to do design and engineering to be able to do that, but it is something that can happen. So the Development Review Board, with that condition, requiring that pool decking to be pervious, they did also recommend approval with the pervious condition, and that was also a unanimous vote. And then also to continue on the conditions from that first variance, because those are also still very important, because these conditions are about protecting the lakefront and the lake. So that is the summary of the case and of the DRB. And I do know the applicant is online with us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Cornelius. We appreciate that. And I do see does the applicant have any comment?
Hi.
Hello, make sure you give us your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, I'm Bryce Grafton, 31 Pine Street, and this is my wife, Patricia Grafton, 31 Pine. Just real quickly, we agree with the DRB's recommendation. Just to kind of give you a little bit more, so we're going to have to somewhat redevelop that area a little bit anyway, because we're working with a lot of runoff and drainage issues around the pool deck. So the swell that we're building and creating, it all sits up, it's closer to the lake, but it all sits up on like a 3.5 foot seawall, piece of land behind a big seawall. So
that's one thing to notice too, that it's not just right up to the sand. We have a good, 3.5 feet level up there. But I mean, we want to express too, just that, again, we agree with the board's recommendation, and we want to make sure that we're doing the most environmentally friendly and safe. We want to keep the lake beautiful just like everyone else. Yep. So we want to make sure that we're doing that, and we're happy to get it properly engineered so that it is as permeable as possible. We mentioned in the DRB meeting too that my father-in-law hurt himself because the outer edge of the pool, it's deteriorated so much, but it's also very small. It's under that 4 feet actually. So we would like to just kind of straighten the lines of it. That's what we showed here kind of in the photo, where it's just more of a straight line and a path around the pool so that no one's injuring themselves when they're kind of, you know, walking around. So,
yeah. But the new decking would be a way to force water and drainage and everything like that to the swell that's going to be in the back of the property.
All right, thank you. Councilperson Martini, our DRB liaison.
I don't have anything to add, Mayor. It was very well presented by Brad. Thank you, Brad.
All right. At this point then, I'll leave this to council for a motion and or discussion. My only question is if we're going to, how do we know in terms of the engineered solution what the permeability rating would be for that?
Mayor, what we require when we have a situation where an applicant is claiming something's pervious, we do require an engineering analysis that's signed and sealed that demonstrates the, and I can never say this word, perviosity, however you say the word, you know, that water can go through it, you know, water can go through it. So we do require a signed and sealed engineered analysis that does document that it is done correctly and it will be draining correctly.
Okay, thank you. Perviosity. I'm going to Google that one on someone else's computer. All right, council. Any additional thoughts, conversation, questions for the applicant and or Brad this evening?
The current deck or area around the pool is 15 foot 7 inches from the high water mark.
That, Ms. McKinley, that would be the new deck. That would be the new deck.
Okay, how far is the current deck?
The current deck.
18.
Yeah, it's roughly about 18. Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to extend something closer to the lake, which is supposed to be, the normal rule is 50 foot, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just not in favor of extending anything closer to the lake. I have no problem with the first part on the house.
Any additional comment, question from council?
Yes, I'd like to say that I'm always in favor of protecting the lakes. I do find that this is an odd lot and a strange situation, and the concern over the usability and the safety in the pool does resonate with me. I really do want to make sure that the applicant adheres to the perviosity requirement if we approve this. So I would only approve it if there was that condition made that they had to have that in hand. Somebody had to approve it before any construction occurred, and that if it didn't at the end actually adhere to the plans that were given, that the applicant then would have to remove entirely all of that material at their own cost.
And Ms. Andrews, that is how we do implement this and do practice that, is they would submit the engineering prior to any permit being issued. We have our engineer review it, assure that it's done correctly. And then at the end of construction, we then go out to verify that it's done as it's supposed to be done. And if it was not, we do make them correct it and fix it. I will say we have worked with these applicants previously, and they have worked very well with us, and we've gone through this issue with them already on another improvement that they did.
Yes, I understand that there has been some reduction in the perviosity, if we can use it again. At least I feel the driveway area, the parking area, and the removal of the vegetation there so close to the water line is concerning to me. So that's why I would want to make sure that this condition is looking into any approval.
Brad, for the sake of understanding, is there a threshold that we look for in terms of of the pervious nature of the material?
Yeah, I can't tell you the actual number, but how the engineers basically document it is they provide us the percolation rate of the soil as it sits. and then they do the things that I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you exactly how they do it.
Sure.
But they do their analysis based on the materials, based on the way it's constructed, and they are able to calculate the rate of percolation with the improvement. And basically, we look for a very negligible change between the natural rate of percolation and what happens after the improvement occurs. So there is an analysis, engineering analysis that is done. So there's not an actual the number or the threshold on what that would be. It's going to change depending on where you are in the town based on the soil characteristics of the site.
Brad, I have a question about that the perviosity of the new decking that's proposed, and I just wanted to say that word. That's really the only reason I brought this up. Actually, will that change the calculations for the water retention area that's at the bottom of the picture if the new decking is not 100% pervious like the previous soil?
Right. If it's not, yes, sir. If it's not 100% pervious, then how your code is set up to deal with a situation like that, we take a percentage of the area and count it as impervious. And now that percentage is based on the findings of the analysis. I can tell you the general engineering rule of thumb that's used, just say for pavers, it's like if the paver's put with sand and it's certified 60%, it's 60% impervious. So if an area is less than 100% pervious, then based on the calculations of the engineers, we would come up with a percentage of that area that we would count towards the amount of retention that'd be required.
Okay, so that's going to have to be adjusted then, the size of that or the depth of that retention area?
Well, the way the condition is right now is that deck would have to be 100% pervious. So it
Gotcha.
Compliant with the condition, it shouldn't change.
Okay.
Now, I will say we haven't fully reviewed their stormwater plan at this point because we didn't know what was going to happen with the variance. So we didn't want to spend a lot of effort doing that yet. But yeah,
Gotcha.
it wouldn't change the size of this requirement.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
All right. Any further comment, question from council or motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Councilperson Martini. Do we have a second?
Is that both of them or just are we splitting them up?
That's both of them, Robert.
And so this
hang on one second. Bill, do you want to go ahead and amend that motion? So it's a motion to approve both items?
Yes, I do want to. It's a motion to approve both items, but I'd like to put the conditions in that Councilperson Andert had spoke about earlier.
Okay, well, let's do those in a manner that is a little. So let me just make sure, Councilperson Andert, that I understand. So basically, what you want to make sure occurs is that that's engineered and that it meets. And that's why I asked the criteria for what we consider to be pervious, so we could make sure that once engineered that it met that standard. Is that and Brad, I'm not trying to back you into a corner here or anything. Is that 50%, 40%, 60%? Give me some clue here.
If we say it's fully pervious, we use 100%. That it's 100%.
Yeah, Mayor.
Okay.
I would suggest that based on Councilmember McKinley's comments, since he's in favor of the first one, not in favor of particularly the second one, that we maybe just go ahead and split this up to have it on the record as far as if there's full support or not full support for either one.
Agreed, and thank you for that. I had forgot that Councilperson McKinley had registered. So he had registered approval for the back porch covering, but his non-support for the pool item. So okay, so Councilperson McKinley or Martini, would you like to withdraw that motion and enter a motion for the porch area, the variance, first variance?
Yes, I'd like to withdraw my motion. and enter a motion to approve the porch area changes.
Overhang to the porch.
Overhang for the porch.
Overhang for the porches, yes.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
Second from Councilperson McKinley. Okay, any further comment on the first portion of the variance? Seeing none, let's begin voting with Councilperson Andrew.
Aye.
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 Okay, so that portion of the variance is approved unanimously. So now we're looking for a motion for the pool decking and engineering.
Mayor, there is a question in the chat box from Brandy Haynes to Brad regarding the pervious material. It says, Brad, are the rules about periodically cleaning out dirt, et cetera, that builds up impervious material, are there rules?
That, there's not a rule in the town code that says that specifically, but we do condition that when we have that situation. Because Ms. Haynes is correct, unless you maintain it, it doesn't stay pervious. So yes, we do address that, but it's not in the town's code.
So I will make a motion, let me see if I can word this correctly, that we approve the variance request for the pool decking with the condition that it adheres to all requirements of engineering and maintaining pervious decking
Permeability.
within town code, if that makes sense.
Yes, no, that's perfect. I think that's very clear now. So, so we're going to maintain the permeability of the substance and material used. Okay, so we have a motion from Councilperson Andrew. Do we have a second?
Second. Sorry, Bill.
I'm going to give that one to Councilperson Williams.
Okay.
It was pretty close to a tie. Any further comment, Councilor?
Mayor, just real quick, I also include maintaining the conditions from the Z1905 variance. We need to be sure we carry those over as well.
Brad, do we need, those were from the first portion of the motion that we just approved, correct? That dealt with the overhang?
Yeah, that was included on the variance request, but both of those are lumped into one on the agenda, but now we're splitting them. So we need to make sure that those requirements about the conditions that were previously approved are included with the separate motion.
So noted for the record is that under item Z20-0931 Pine Street, that all conditions of the variance Z19-005 remain in place.
Correct.
Fair enough? Okay. Now, back to, we have a first, so we have a motion on the table, and any further discussion for the pool deck item and permeability? All right, seeing none, we will begin voting with Councilperson Martini.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
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 All right, motion carries 4-1 with Councilperson McKinley dissenting. Next up on our agenda is item D. This is the Ward Trail concept. This was an item that we held a workshop to discuss. And basically what we're looking for this evening is council's approval to move forward with design and concept. Robert, did you want to add any additional items and comments for the Ward Trail?
I think that Brandy said that she wanted to reserve any comments or questions, but we did have a workshop. We also took this to long range planning and the tree board, and both committees did approve and there was consent from the council. Again, this is conceptual, and then when we work with Kinley Horn Associates for the IPO, we will include 2 conditions: that they work with the tree board and do a walkthrough prior to the design on trying to maintain a distance or trying to save as many trees as possible. And then the second part of that would be to work with the tree board on any replantings. Again, this is a concept that we're looking to utilize for the Healthy West Orange Task Force. So it shows them, rather than just showing lines on a map of what we conceptually are looking to do and construct. And then once we get into the design is when we get into the meat and potatoes of the actual configuration. How do we meander to make sure that we're protecting the trees, and what types of trees and plants are going to be included in the actual final design.
Thank you, sir. Council, any additional comment or motion to approve the ward trail for design and concept?
Sapp, motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve by Councilperson Sapp. Looking for a second?
Second.
Second from Councilperson McKinley. Thank you, Council. Any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, we'll begin voting with Councilperson Andrew.
Aye.
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 And that will, the ward trail approval for concept and design will pass unanimously, and that's a big moment. That's very, very good. It's going to be an exciting addition to our town. Under new business, council, we have 3 sets of meeting minutes. We have our town council meeting minutes from July 14th, 2020, as well as our town council workshop meeting minutes from July 28th, 2020. And finally, our town council budget workshop minutes for August 3rd, 2020. Council, you can approve these as one item, or you can approve them separately. Discretion.
With no objections, I'd like to make a motion to approve all 3 items. This is second.
Motion to approve all 3 by Councilperson Sapp. Looking for a second?
Second.
Second from Councilperson Andert. Council, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll begin voting with Councilperson Martini.
Aye.
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 Thank you, Council. And the meeting minutes are passed unanimously, items 1, 2, and 3. Up next is a resolution ordinance for approval and first reading. Council, so we have some discretion here. I know that there's quite a bit of discussion on this ordinance. This is number 2020-06. Basically the chicken ordinance. And I know that there's quite a bit of public comment. I think with council's approval, I would like to have comment first, and then council can have discretion as to whether they would like to move this along in the ordinance process, or we can read it and then have a public hearing. Either way, it just, you guys will kind of give us your thought, feedback, and guidance on that. Robert, does that sound okay?
Yeah, if you want me to read the comments, I can. I believe all of you have received the letters from Rita and Pat Casey objecting to the chicken ordinance. The second letter that came in was from Tom and Pamela Johnson, also requesting that a no vote for the ordinance. The third letter we received from Valerie Tucker on 4 Pine Street, again with a vote no on the chicken ordinance. And then an email from Karen Fay requesting council vote no on the chicken ordinance. I do believe that some of those that have signed up, I do see Rita on here, and I'm not sure if any others are on here, and Mr. Kegler is on here as well, who did send you all information on the chicken ordinance, and I believe, he was pretty much the catalyst for bringing this to the town council's agenda. So I would leave some time for Mr. Kegler and whoever else wants to make any comments relative to this specific ordinance. the council does have the ability to just do the reading, listen to comment, and then move forward to second reading. Or if there is no appetite to change, to allow chickens, no matter what the ordinance looks like, the council can go ahead and remove this ordinance from the next and final reading.
So just to be clear, and I want to make sure that everyone's clear this evening, so nothing can happen tonight that will approve this ordinance. All we can do is get feedback. Council can then decide whether we want to read this ordinance as a first reading, which will allow a second reading at our next town council meeting, along with additional public comment and a vote at that time to approve or vote down the ordinance number 2020-06. So either way we handle this evening, there is no there's no way to approve it, or the only thing you can do is say we don't want to move forward, and then it won't move forward at all. So essentially, you can't approve it tonight, but you could you could let it basically come off of the agenda for the second reading. But just so council has all their options, and everyone that is attending also has a clear understanding of that. So I think we'll go ahead with public comment at this point. And I'll see if I can pull up that list really quickly. Robert, do you have that list in front of you, or Dorothy?
Yes, I do. The first one is Valerie Tucker, who she's from 4 Pine Street. I'm not sure if she's on the line or not.
Okay. Ms. Tucker, are you on the line this evening?
Oh, she's trying to get on right now. She did submit the letter in opposition. I'm trying to pull it up now. I can read it for the record. I hope this email finds you well. We are a neighbor of the resident of Windermere who has over the year had a rooster and chickens. They are very noisy, smelly, and attract predators to our neighborhood. While I'm always happy for people to raise farm animals, I believe they should be raised on farms. We chose to live in a residential neighborhood without farm animals. If you decide to change our ordinance, please consider requiring a particular lot size, necessary location of where the hen house should be, distance from the side setback, level of acceptance, stench and noise, limit number of type of animals, require a license to raise farm animals in residential zoning, which we require the approval signatures of their neighbors. I know we shouldn't infringe on someone's right to raise farm animals. However, we also shouldn't infringe on someone's right not to be forced to live next to someone who decides to raise them not in the proper setting. Best regards, Valerie Tucker, 4 Pine Street. She did see that she did sign on, so I don't know if she wanted to add any additional comments to that. And for background, remember, council, this was brought to your attention. It was requested to take it to DRB, get their comments. So myself, Brad, and Heather Ramos looked at other jurisdictions, how they address this, pretty much created a la carte of restrictions if they were to go through it. But at the very beginning of the discussion, it was very obvious that the DRB didn't have an appetite to even consider an ordinance in the first place. So they didn't want to go down that rabbit hole of discussing the specifics of an actual ordinance. So they denied it flat out without any discussion. With that said, Ms. Tucker, if you're on the line and have had anything additional to add to your letter.
All right. We will, if she's able to come on, we'll make sure she has her opportunity to comment, as well as the fact that her letter has been read into record. If you want to scroll back there, Robert, we'll get the next up.
It's Rita Casey. She is on the line. You do have her letter. I didn't know if we wanted to read this for the record or if she wanted to just give us the bullet points of that letter itself. So Rita, if you can unmute.
We can let her decide there.
Well, thank you so much for letting me speak. You have the letter that has our concerns in it, but I guess my main concern is speaking from my 27 years of selling real estate, and it's about property sales and values. And if buyers are looking in Windermere and you pass the ordinance, they're going to need to be alerted to the fact that there is a possibility that the property they see or the neighbors could at some point have chickens in a chicken coop next door, and that can make an impact on the decision of them to even see a house. So when you're selling a house, you also want to attract the most buyers, because that's what helps you raise the value of your selling price. And we all want top dollar for our houses. So I'm concerned that that ordinance will affect the selling options and eventually selling prices, all of us as homeowners in Windermere. And also, you know, a lot of the lots, I know like on Pine Street, many of them are grandfathered in and the lots are small. So I'm also concerned that if you pass the ordinance, you're also going to get a lot of variances, because it's opening the door and then people are going to look to try to, you know, change what you may have just passed. And that also puts a burden on code enforcement. And a lot of times with situations like we have now, if they're busy, it's going to then put the burden on homeowners and neighbors to have to call somebody in if the chickens get out, or, you know, whatever the case may be, and that may cause conflict. And I can tell you that my husband and I have lived here for 20 years, and we love our street, we love our home and our neighbors, and the very unique ability that Windermere has to have such a friendly, quiet, and peaceful neighborhood. And that's what we've enjoyed about it. So we really are opposed to changing that and introducing a very strong variable that could affect all of those things. So that is our feeling on it, and thank you for your time and attention this evening.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, we have Lynn Salmon, or Salmon, hate to butcher your last name. I think he did sign up to speak on behalf of the chicken ordinance. Is that correct, Mr.
Yes,
Salmon?
yeah, this is Jim Salmon.
Jim Salmon.
On behalf of Lynn and myself, thank you. And also, I had submitted a letter. I didn't see it a part of what we just went through just a minute ago. But if I need to resubmit that to you, I believe we sent it to the town council members individually, so maybe they already have a copy. Just want to, you know, be on the record to say we did submit a letter, and we're happy to provide that again, Mr. Smith.
And okay. You are you in support of the ordinance?
Absolutely not.
Oh, absolutely not. That's why I just want to clarify. And if you could just give us your address as well as your full name, we would appreciate it.
You bet. My name is James and Lynn. Speaking on behalf of my wife and myself, James and Lynn Salmon, number 8 Pine Street. And we do oppose this ordinance, and we sent the letter to stay the same. And we appreciate the council's time with the council to address this matter. The current we've been here for 20 plus years as well, and the current regulations we have worked fine for the 20 years we've been here, and for the years before we even moved here. And therefore, we see no reason at all to change. In trying to find a positive that this ordinance provides to our established community as a whole, the only thing I can come away with, it allows a chicken to lay an egg. Section 431, Part 6 says the chickens have to stay in the coops at all times. They can't be out running around. They have to be in the coop at all times. The only time they can be out is if Mr. Smith, the town manager, grants a special accommodation, which must be tied to a disability. At that time, the chickens can come out and interact with the person with the disability, but as soon as that's over, they're back in the coop. So make no mistake, these aren't pets. These chickens are going to be in this coop at all times, not free range chickens. They're going to be in this coop at all times. And then Part 432, Section 10 says that goes through quite a length to say, hey, we don't want to look at it from the road. The neighbors shouldn't have to look at it. We want it in the backyard so nobody can see it. Another part says we want to wrap a 6-foot fence, opaque wall fence around it so nobody has to look at it. And so when I read the regulations and say, well, if no one wants to look at it, if we're trying to hide it so no one can see it, what positive can this have to our town as a whole? What positive impact can this have? And frankly, I just don't see it. I could speak to real estate values, but I think Rita already hit that. If I'm a buyer and I'm walking through a backyard and all of a sudden I smell a foul smell, and you spell foul either way that you want to, but you have that odor and you hear the clucking of chickens, what's that going to do to your mindset as a buyer? Does that increase the value of the property? I don't think so. I think that has a negative impact as well. And I'd like to reemphasize something that's in the Johnson's letter that I picked up on when I saw that. that says the minimum lot size. Back to what Rita said as well. We've got a lot of smaller lot sizes here in this town. And I think that you need to pay consideration to, need to be a minimum lot size with this. The other comment I would have is back to you can't see it from the roadways or from adjacent parcels or anything else because we're trying to hide it. If we're truly trying to hide it from everyone, we also need to hide it from our lakes and our public domain, the parks, whatever you want to call that.
We have 3 minutes.
So to kind of wrap this up, we do not see this as a positive for the town of Windermere at all. And we encourage our council to leave the current and effective regulations as they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salmon. That clears up any ambiguity there. Thank you. Any further speakers or comments from the public on the chicken ordinance?
I do believe Mr. Kegler is on. He has raised his hand. And then if you didn't catch what Dorothy said, she said that his 3 minutes were up. So again, remember that if you're speaking in favor or in opposition of this item, you only get 3 minutes. So the time will start the minute that you start speaking. If you have questions, ask them all at one time. So we are not having to break that up, stop and go. So Mr. Kegler, you're up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can have your full name and your address, Mr. Kegler.
This is Douglas Kegler at 12 Pine Street. And, I'm a couple of the people who've spoken are, our direct neighbors, which I can see their concern. We had chickens that were not allowed previously that are now gone. But, I understand our lot and the lots on Pine Street is probably not somewhere where they would approve them because they're so small in the backyard. But for other people in the town of Windermere that have larger lots, where they aren't having to put up large fences and things to hide the chickens from their neighbor, it is something that people like to do. I know it was said they're not really seen as pets, but with the run and with the coop that was in the ordinance, they do become pets for people that have them. It's not just for the eggs. It's actually not even for the eggs because it's not any less expensive. Actually, it's more expensive to have them for the eggs. But it's a nice thing to do. Families that do it really enjoy it with their children. And I think that, again, for larger lots in the town of Windermere, this is definitely something that will be of value. And I don't think there'll be many people that will even want to do it. We know some people that do, but it is a cost. It's not inexpensive, and it's just as much care as getting a dog. So it's not a light thing to take at hand and just say, I'm going to raise some chickens. So I do think in that. I'm not sure where I am at my 3 minutes, but that's pretty much all I had to say.
1 minute remaining.
I guess the last thing I'd say, I heard from other speakers about the smell. We have people over when we had the chickens that we weren't supposed to have. And no one ever smelled anything. And we had more than 4 chickens. So I think the smelly part is just not really existent. Maybe if you had a farm of dozens of chickens. And, chickens making noise. Yeah, they do cluck in the morning. We have people with dogs who bark all day. So, and there's no law against that. So, again, I don't see that as really an issue. And as far as, having a coop in a backyard, right now someone could have a really ugly yard and not take care of it and have junk in it. There's no, unless it's overwhelming, there's no law against that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comment. I did see another comment come up in the chat box regarding another meeting to discuss further. As we talked about a little bit earlier, This is an ordinance, so any ordinance that moves forward, the opportunity is there for 2 readings as well as a public hearing, which would be an additional opportunity to comment and or discuss at the next town council meeting should this ordinance be pushed forward. Any further comment from the public? All right. Seeing none, then I will leave this to council at their discretion to discuss, and or we can read this and put it into reading and move it forward, or we can just leave it here at this point if council doesn't have the appetite to proceed.
I have a question. If we decide not to move forward, do you need that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that based on the comments that have been made, a on-site inspection that I made, that I went and looked, and the number of people that are against this, I'd like to make a motion that we not move forward on this this item.
Okay, we have a motion for denial by Councilperson McKinley. Council, do we have a second for that motion or any discussion?
I'd like to make comment. So
don't we have to act on the motion first?
We technically should, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
you. Can. Liz, would you like to second that for the sake of discussion?
No, I don't want to second it, but I do want to make comment. So
okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a second. Thank you, Councilperson Williams. Discussion, council.
So I do intend to vote that to whatever we're calling this, deny further consideration. However, I would like to say that I think that this is a fine activity. I'm not, and I don't know that anyone on council is necessarily opposed to the raising of backyard chickens. There are a lot of benefits. In fact, I spoke with the city planner from Orlando at length about the decision process he made and how he drafted their ordinance. And as I understand it, the ordinance that our team drafted, which thank you to all of you. I know that Town Manager Smith and I can't recall who else, but the work that was done on that I think was outstanding. I think it's a strong ordinance. My concern is that, is this the right place to conduct that activity? And that's the standard to which I'm holding it. The comments that I received and others on our council did too, probably, I feel were very localized to the current activities. And so I feel like the absence of other comments from residents in town is solely because they're not facing an immediate threat of having chickens near them. And I feel like this would kind of apply throughout town, that it would be a majority opinion. Now, I don't know if that's fair or not, but I feel like if somebody else on another street was looking to raise chickens, we would hear from the individuals around there as well, that they don't feel that this is fitting with the characteristics of the town that they would like to have going forward. So that's my reasoning on this. I just felt it was fair to say that. And I did want anyone who is supportive of raising chickens, I think it's a fine activity. I just don't feel like it fits in the character of the town of Windermere at this time.
Thank you, Councilperson Andert. Further comment from council.
Just quick comment. Obviously when we first went into this, I guess we all thought there would be a little bit different reaction to it, and that's why we looked into it. I know personally I had 2 or 3 people that unsolicited approached me about the potential of it, or if they are actually allowed in town. I'm fine with the direction I think these motions are going. My only concern is we advertise first reading. Should we go to a second reading for that? I've never been in this position on the 2.5 years where we've squashed an ordinance halfway through. So I'm just kind of curious of the thoughts of the rest of council on that.
I'll allow. Go ahead, Robert.
We only advertise for second and final reading.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point, is that if you go forward, if it's not council's feeling that it's something that they're interested in approving, if we do move forward, we're gonna have to spend money to advertise that. it's not the end of the world either way, quite frankly, but you know, it is money. And if we have a council that feels like they just don't have the support or the positive feeling to move the ordinance forward at this time, there is no downside to denying that. But if you'd like to move it forward for further comment and discussion and an additional vote, we could do that. But at this time, you have a motion for denial that has been seconded, so we'll have to vote on that first.
No, I think I'm friendly with the direction. It was just concern. I know it wasn't a formal, notice with newspapers and such, but it does say first reading. So just want to bring that point up.
But I believe on first readings also, in the past, we've made changes to the ordinance and things like that. So that
is correct.
Yeah. No, we're certainly within, procedure, no doubt about it. Any further comment from council?
No.
All right. Seeing none, we will begin voting with Councilperson Martini. This is for denial.
Aye for denial.
With 2 ayes, we're looking for a third vote.
Aye.
We get them all. Councilperson Williams, did you vote?
Yeah.
Councilperson Ander voted? Okay. So basically it's unanimous to deny ordinance number 2020-06, the chicken ordinance at this time. So I think based on history, we'll do this again in 10 years. I know we've done it twice.
Mm-hmm.
I know Karen Fay was telling me that when Jerry was on council, it came up, and then when I was first on council, we brought it up, and it was denied those 2 times, and now a third. So, all right. Thank you, council. I know those are tough when we think it's going to be one way, and then it goes a different way based on public input, but that's why we do this. Contracts and agreements, we have design for paving of Old Dirt Main, second to the Rubio property, which is essentially the canal and the bridge. And this is IPO 115, not to exceed $104,919. Staff, are you going to present on this, Robert or Scott?
I know Hal's on as well. Again, with part of the Rubio transfer of the property, the railroad right away adjacent to their property, a condition of that was that we would pave that portion within 3 years, or at least make an effort to move forward with paving that area. Originally, we looked at just doing from north to the canal. As most of you know, that travel in that area, it's a big mud bog and has been for quite some time. And with the proximity of how close North and Second are, if we were to do that and just leave one small section of just a roadway, it would be hard for grading purposes, maintenance purposes. So that's why we decided just to extend it all the way to West 2nd Avenue. So it would be paved from West 2nd Avenue all the way to the terminus of the canal. And, the costs are there for the design, and once we get into the, again, nuts and bolts of the design, we'll make sure that we incorporate the comments and suggestions from the neighbors that are adjacent to the project.
Robert, we had talked earlier, did we advise all the neighbors that about the design process, or would you wait until the actual project were voted on?
I know that Scott has reached out, and I think that I think Bob McKinley or Councilman McKinley has had conversations with the people on that roadway.
Right.
What's that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and I believe that everybody has been in support of this. I personally had any conversations, maybe 1 or 2, and that was when we were talking about some of the right-of-way swaps. But I have not seen anybody objecting to us paving this portion. Again, we're not trying to pave any of the roadways because the direction of council is to make sure that we maintain those dirt roadways. But with the transfer of that property, we did agree to pave this section. And the only thing that we're adding to this is bringing it from north to West 2nd, which makes fiscal sense and it makes maintenance sense. And, when we get into the design, we'll incorporate the comments from those neighbors, but I don't see why they would object to us paving that section.
The ones that I talked to on there, Robert, and coming from Second also helps with the stormwater control, which has been the problem that we've had at the north end of Dirt Main. And the residents along there that I talked to, the general consensus was that any time last month would have been a good time to pave it. So they're ready for it to be paved.
Yeah.
And on top of that, also part of the concept here as we wait for funding for the Ward Trail and the design here, we'll also be removing the old sidewalk that's poorly established there as well.
Yeah.
We'll tie in the ramp off the canal into the end of the roadway. We've talked to our traffic engineers at Kimley Horn and Associates, and they feel confident that the low density of pedestrian traffic that's currently on it can maintain within this roadway. We will have it a little wider, install a F curb on one side, and improve that whole route in through there.
So Scott, I think that, yeah, if we can make it wider, I think that's super wise. Right now that sidewalk and that entire area is very broken up and pretty dangerous, and a constant maintenance headache. Council will also recall that we did approve that this area would be paved. I believe in our approval, we had talked about from First Street to the canal, but I do understand the rationale for doing a little more, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that piece. It's a mess down there, and I don't think there's anything we can do other than this to make it not so muddy and difficult to walk on and really kind of very unsafe. Council, any motion or further comment?
I would just recommend that we put in some speed control, thoughts about speed control devices if we're paving 2 Second Avenue.
We can certainly look into that during the design and get recommendations back to you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Councilperson Martini. Any further thoughts or comments on this item? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
Sapp, motion to approve.
Councilperson Sapp with the motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilperson Andrew. Thank you. Any further comment, Council? Then we'll begin voting with Councilperson Andrew.
Aye.
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 And item C passes unanimously. This is for IPO number 115, not to exceed $1,419. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Scott, hey, I appreciate that. I know that's been a constant headache for everybody, so hopefully it'll be much improved now.
Be a great improvement to the town and the pedestrians as well. So.
Yeah, it's kind of a nightmare down there right now. Thanks, sir. I see we have financial and other items for consideration. There's nothing listed there. Are there any other items, Robert, that we need to handle this evening?
No, sir.
Okay. Any council reports?
I can give some updates on Butler Chain of Lakes Advisory Board and lake doings if anyone's curious about that.
Absolutely, Councilperson Andrew, thank you.
Okay, so the next meeting will be Monday, August 17th. So that'll be next Monday at 4:30 p.m. via WebEx. That information I can provide out later, or if you do a search on ocfl.net and look for the Butler Chain of Lakes Advisory Board, you can find the information for how to join their WebEx meeting. They had a meeting on July 20th where 30 people attended via WebEx. That is a significant increase over regular traffic to those meetings. Usually they have about 8 or 9 in attendance, including the 5 on the board. So quite a few people called in, and that most of those people were attracted via conversations on NextDoor and on Facebook because they wanted to register their concerns regarding Bird Island and safety issues on the lake chain. So there is a lot of appetite for that. Several residents in the area, as well as several people on the advisory board and at EPD and various other agencies, continue to talk about options on how we can improve the safety out there. So anyone who's listening here and has those concerns, you can make your concerns known also to the Butler Chain of Lakes Advisory Board, or I'm always happy to take those comments and make sure that they are heard at those meetings. My email address at town is landert@town.windermere.fl.us. So please find me there, and you can also get that email address off of our town website. I can type it in the comments later too after I'm finished reading from my notes. Lieutenant Hudson of the Butler Marine Patrol provided some background on the challenges for enforcement in jurisdictions. So those things remain, but they are trying to put together some meetings between the entities that have jurisdiction and that have enforcement responsibilities to talk more about roles. So that conversation continues. I need to get an update on that, and I hope to find that out on August 17th if they have any progress on that. Liz Johnson from EPD attended. And for anyone who's looking to directly express their concerns to an enforcement agency that has jurisdiction, you can call Orange County Sheriff's Office on their non-emergency number, which I'll type into the comments box here, but it is 407-836-HELP. Let's see. Also, the Town of Windermere doesn't have jurisdiction over the lake activity, as we've talked about previously, but we are still trying to serve a role there. And so I have volunteered to serve as kind of a collector of observations, complaints, evidence, as in photos and videos. So if your neighbors, or if you, any of you on the call, or anyone on council or in town admin is out on the lakes and witnesses anything and wants to have that information documented and available to put together collectively as evidence that could maybe help us with some enforcement measures, please send that again to my email address. I'm trying to put together things to provide to county and state via Commissioner Vanderlei or whoever might sit in our county and state positions after elections, so that we can try to sway opinion there. Also, last thing is that if anyone is interested in taking or receiving their boater safety card, I did find a free Boat US course that is on their website. I'm taking it myself, and tomorrow I'll be taking the 75 question exam. I'm not required to, by the way. Only people who are born after 1988 need to have a boater safety card. But I thought that I might as well put my money where my mouth is, and so I'm taking it too. It's introduced me to some differences in Minnesota and Florida boating laws too, so I find that to be useful, and I encourage everyone to be as safe as possible. So that's it.
Thank you, Councilperson Andert. And it's good to know that I'll be required to take that boating safety class, being born after 1988.
Yeah.
Any additional comments from council?
I have one, Mayor. We have a DRB meeting coming up on August 18th, and I would encourage the council and the public at large to participate, or not participate, but at least to listen in. It's regarding 111 West 5th Avenue and the the potential, not rezoning, potential conditional use change for that property. So just wanted to remind everyone that's a primary election day, so it'll be a busy day for a lot of people, but please tune in.
Thank you, Councilperson Martini, for reminding us of that, and I do agree it'll be an important meeting. I'll make the announcement that typically at this time of year, we normally have a memorial service for, or at the 9/11 memorial and for the town. We're not going to do that this year due to COVID, and while we'll miss that opportunity, I just think again that it's probably the best thing to do. It's again, I feel like Scrooge, but certainly our thoughts and prayers and our remembrances will be with all those who were impacted by the 9/11 tragedy. Any additional comments from council? Seeing none, we'll move to staff reports. Robert.
Yeah, as you know, the temporary facilities have been constructed. We received our temporary CO today. Tomorrow, where we're going to be working on the cable lines for the IT company. Then the IT company comes in on Thursday. After that, hopefully the servers will be installed, and then we have to work with the scheduling of moving the printers over to the temporary facilities. But probably within the next week, we'll be moving stuff over to temporary facilities, and then hopefully, not next week, but probably the week after, we'll go ahead and flip the switch to where we'll move from 614 to 501 Forest Street. Is that right, Brad? Or Scott? Or Scott, 501 Forest Street. That'll be the address for town admin and the PD. Just so you know, we have 4 workshops scheduled for the West 2nd Avenue project. Again, that's another project that's being funded through the LMS funds. That's a $1 million benefit to the town of Windermere. So we're going to meet with all the residents to go over the design. Once the design is complete, we'll take it for your back to you for your blessing, and then go ahead and bid that project out so we can maybe get that constructed within the next 12 months. The additional LMS grants, as you're aware, if you read over the project notes, we were denied 2 of the projects on our LMS list. We appealed those, and we were subsequently awarded those. That comes up to be another $1 million. So out of the LMS grants, we are benefiting over $2 million in federal funds for our stormwater projects. So kudos to a lot of staff, Hal, Mike, John, Scott, Nora, and Councilmember Sapp for all their hard work on getting those LMS projects funded, and a lot of lobbying to try to get those projects that were denied into the funding category and integrate that. And again, that's just a huge windfall for the town of receiving over $2 million for projects, especially with stormwater, where we only have about $150,000 a year for projects. So without that money, we would be able to be fund. Again, Healthy West Orange Trail Alliance is continuously meeting. So I'll keep you up to date on that, on whether or not we can get at least phase 1 funded. But as you know, we do put money away for the design and for the construction of that first phase. And I'll keep you up to date on when we have those meetings with those residents along that route. In addition to when we have those meetings with those residents for the design of Older Main being paved. Again, the DRB meeting, that's going to be very important. I do know that the applicants are having a happy hour or a Zoom meeting on Thursday evening. So if you want to see some of their presentation, I suggest that you go ahead and attend that. When it comes to Bessie Stormwater IPO and also the Butler IPO, I know Brandy just sent in a question. Scott is in review with Hal, and then they're going to be presenting that to the concepts to Councilmember Sapp and I, and then we'll bring it to the residents in those areas, and then finally to Town Council for final approval. So those are still in the hopper, and we're still working on those.
I want to thank staff and our entire team, and as well as our contract engineers and planners. That LMS money is quite a coup. We certainly appreciate it, especially now at this point in time, and it's going to allow us to mitigate some of those areas that we have trouble with stormwater on, and that's always a win for us. We appreciate everybody's hard work, and certainly getting Healthy West Orange to sign up to do our first segment of the linear park in terms of the Ward Trail is also a really big coup, and allows everyone to see not only an opportunity to invest in our community and the value of that, but also an opportunity to invest in what's going to really be a benchmark addition to our town. So pretty pleased, and great job to all who has participated in that. I know that's been a big lift, and a lot of people have been involved. So I appreciate everyone's support. And
right.
Move forward on that item.
And Mayor, real quick too, sorry to interrupt again. We will be doing additional struts. I know we're going to be zoomed out for meetings, but we're going to be doing a charrette on Fernwood Park. We'll do a charrette for Lake Street, and then also the possibility of Bessie as well. And the reason we're doing this separate is because we don't want to tie in Fernwood discussion with Lake Street because those are separate issues. And then I know that Commissioner Vanderlei has asked for the county to discuss and to look into the issues over at Bird Island as well. So I think I forwarded you over the letter that she sent to Mayor Demings.
Thank you, Robert. And I want to be clear with everybody that that's not, those two items will be, first of all, the Fifth Avenue Park remains closed, and we continue to put a lot of enforcement efforts into Fernwood Park to make sure that we have that situation as under control as we possibly can at this point. There are some bigger pieces and chess pieces that need to move, I think, to make that even close to a complete solution. But as we begin to kind of turn the ship a little bit, we want to make sure that we have good conversation on that and come up with the best ideas possible. It's going to be a lot of work there to make that situation as good as it can be. So, all right, we have, let's see, we have, there we go, there's DC. Thank you, DC.
I'm here.
I knew you were there, and then I'm like, wait, where'd she go?
I'm still here at this office, but it's all kind of bare here, so it's a little different, but we're excited about moving into the new building, or the temporary building. So I'm sure I can say everybody here is excited, and we thank the members of our community, our residents, our town council, the manager, Robert, everybody for allowing this to happen. So we're all excited. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about. Within the next, I guess, 30 days, 3 members of our agency, including myself, are going to participate in various training. And the goal is to come back as trainers and teach the rest of the agency. But with what's going on in the communities with the policing and whatnot, there's 3 different types. We have a de-escalation and negotiation training. That's something that I'm going to participate in. That's going to be held, it's an outside instructor from down south. That'll be held at the Ocoee Police Department. And then we have one person going to fair and impartial policing. One of those is a 3-day class. The other one's a 2-day class. And the last one is a bias-free policing. So we feel that we need to continue on that path of impartial policing, and that's what we're going to do. So we'll be able to come back and train our own. So that'll help save some money there, so that we don't have to send anybody out. This will also help us with our accreditation, because that's going to be one of the markers that we have to meet when we get that up and running. We've started our Power DMS, and when we are about 4 months out from the building, moving into the final place here, we will apply for accreditation and start that process. So fortunately, we have time right now. So we're trying to get everything in place so we can have that easy transition once we move into the new building. I also wanted to just mention that Lisa Savy is expected to come out of the hospital tomorrow. I won't go into any more detail, obviously, but she's been doing very well and has a lot of support from her family and the community, the elementary school, the police department. So I just wanted to pass that on. I felt that was important, and that should be it.
Thank you, DC. Our thoughts and prayers certainly remain with the Sadie family, and anything that we can do to support them in any way to help the efforts that are already in place, not only in our support for them, but also our support for the officers who responded to that scene, not only from Windermere, but from Oakland, Ocoee, Winter Garden, as well as Orange County. We certainly want to do anything we can to support and help those guys. I know you guys had an after action the other day, and some support for all those officers, and I understand it went really well. And our gratitude goes out to all of our partners and all of you guys. It's a very tough job, and especially these days. It's even tougher, but we have full faith in the integrity of our police department and the training efforts that we put forth to make sure that we do the best job possible that we can in law enforcement. And, we thank you for your contribution there as well.
And we appreciate that. I
mean
it. Yeah, that the debriefing went very well. We had probably over 40 plus members from the Victims Advocate, all the different agencies. Troy from the church was there as well. So it went very, very well. That's the purpose there, is to kind of get some things out and discuss certain things. But we still get messages every day about how much we're appreciated. So that goes a long way. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and you guys are appreciated and supported, and you know, and I encourage everybody to share that with you when they see you. And also when there's something that we can do better, we want to know that as well. Because a lot of times I find that there are very little things that are very easy to tweak and train on. It's not to, you know, not to get anybody in trouble, just to say, hey, could we do this different or this different? And sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no, but that feedback is always valued, especially when it's given in a way that is, you know, constructive. And because we want to be the best police department we possibly can. And I know you guys work very, very hard on that.
We do. Thank you.
All right. Scott, I see.
Yes.
There you are. How are you, sir?
I am well, thank you. I hope everybody else is doing well. Everyone received our project minute updates. So I won't extend the time and go over all those. So you can always reach out to me to ask me any questions now or later on. Since then, with the onslaught of the afternoon rainstorms we've been getting, we do have some other customers, I call them, or resident concerns within town, some drainage items. We'll be updating those as we do future projects. But we're working with them, and they're cooperative and diligent on it. I like to say, one, I'm grateful and relieved that Hurricane Asa, or however you pronounce it, took that final turn and headed out north and northeast of us. So that was a great relief, and keeping an eye on Josephine, or probably what will be Josephine pretty soon. Hopefully it'll keep the same track. Otherwise, the guys are keeping the roads tidied up, keeping things hammered down and secured. We're getting ready for that big move. Those final storage units are coming in on Thursday, and as Robert said, the rest of the facilities should be up and running here in the next week or so. So we're looking forward to that, and some demo permits to come in and move forward with it. And otherwise, just everybody keep safe. Always remember, in the middle of COVID, do keep your hurricane supplies with you as well.
Thank you, sir. I also, something I talked about with Robert earlier today, I know that I asked if we would be able to keep the pavilion between the new or the temporary facilities intact when we move those, and it looks like that'll probably work. So, I mean, that's really nice what we did there and what the team did. So I'd like to see what we can do with that for the future.
All things can be moved.
Amen. All right. I like that. I like the sounds of that. All right.
Yeah, I've moved bigger places than that. It can be done.
Councilor Ramos, anything for the good of the order?
I don't have anything, Mayor.
Clerk Burkhalter, anything?
No, sir.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And seeing nothing else, we will be adjourned at 7:58, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody at the DRB meeting on Thursday. Take care, all.
Good night.
Night.